Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. You know, we're living in amazing times right now. It's very exciting times, especially for the entrepreneur. I listen to people all day long talking about different opportunities they've come across, different companies that are making it, some that are not making it. And you know, a lot of times the difference between those that are making it big and the people that are struggling is capitalization, being able to secure the right amount of funding. And today we're going to be talking to an expert to show us how to secure funding, creative ways to secure funding for small business, and also how to create jobs, which right now is on the minds of many Americans. And we're also going to talk about how to use the creation of jobs into leveraging that into being able to secure funding for small business. So we have an expert on the show today. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you. Thanks for staying with us. You know, today I have a dear friend of mine on the show, Chase Barfiel. And, you know, in the seminar business, which is my previous life, we would actually, I would get hundreds of people every show that would come to me and they would ask about funding. And a lot of times, you know, I've seen some mediocre ideas, but they had the right amount of capitalization and they made these great successes. And I've seen these unbelievable ideas, these kind of things that you just know it's the next Google or the next Facebook or something like that, but they never get in front of the right people to you know, get capitalization. They never get in those right meetings with the guy that actually makes the decisions. And today I have a very dear friend of mine on the show, Chase Barfiel, that is a professional when it comes to funding, when it comes to securing money, particularly for small business. And this person, we have a lot of, we were laughing earlier on the show, we have a lot of stories, we've done a lot of crazy things together, and he does deal in very big business. But, you know, he's going to show us a way to have some really creative financing today, particularly for the small business owner. And I want you to help me welcome out Mr. Chase Barfiel. Good to see you, man.
So weird.
Okay, Chase, now, we're going to be laughing a lot, I'll tell you that, because we have some serious, crazy history together, which I will not elaborate on at this time.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, your wife paid me a little before you came on the show. But honestly, Chase, I know that what you do, and you know, I have the question a lot of times where I'll be out, I'll be doing a show or something, and people will say, you know, what exactly is it that you do? Do you write, or are you in TV, or do you know, invest in businesses, or do you help people fix their companies? And I'm like, I don't really know how to answer that question. And I know what you do, but I can only imagine when you get that question of like, so Chase, what do you do? That would be a pretty big thing to try to sink your teeth into. So I'm going to ask you, you know, if you think about Chase Barfiel, in a short version, what do you do, my friend?
Okay. Friend may be a little strong term, but okay.
Yeah, considering. Okay.
Okay. The short answer is that I am a father, I'm a husband, I'm a businessman, and I'm an entrepreneur. I have 3 handsome boys,
Yep.
as you know, a beautiful wife, and I have founded, co-founded, invested in, and built many businesses, both here and abroad. That's about as short as I can make it for you.
Well, you know, when you mentioned a direct distinction between being a small business owner and being an entrepreneur, and you know, a lot of people, they think it's the same thing, and I see these small business owners out there that are saying, you know, I've been an entrepreneur for this many years, and especially when I know the inside scoop of the company, I'm like, okay. And there is a distinction, but can you explain briefly what the distinction is between a businessman and entrepreneur?
Sure. The way that I like to describe it is that an entrepreneur is commonly the spark that starts the flame. And your businessman is the person that comes along behind them in order to manage and or grow that flame into a bigger fire. What I mean by that is that your entrepreneur is commonly the creative spark that starts the business, and then you'll have a businessman that'll come in and manage and or grow that business. And the mindset of one is commonly quite different from the other, although many people try to lump them into the same category.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. The mindset is very different. You know, for instance, I feel like businessmen, small business owners hate to fail. And when they do, it's like a really big deal. Entrepreneurs were like, yeah, we failed. We use it as a learning experience.
Fail fast.
It's absolutely, yeah, no problem failing, but you got to fail fast, right? And learn what you need to learn. And I think also the way that they assess risk. You know, businessman, a lot of times small business owners will really want that perfect scenario where the stars line up, and man, if this really lines up this way, I'll take some kind of. Entrepreneurs are like, what's the ratio? 80% likely, 20% risk?
Done.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And so generally we're in really quick or we're out really quick. We don't want to waste time, and we want to get right to it, right?
That's exactly right.
So now, there's a lot of sizzle and excitement, whereas others seems more structured also. So I kind of feel like the entrepreneurs, sometimes to their detriment, they suffer from the grass is greener syndrome.
Yeah.
So a lot of these people are so creative. They're creative to the point of their demise, because they literally have multi-million-dollar ideas. And there's probably a lot of viewers out there right now that are cursed with this, that they're so creative. They have multi-million-dollar ideas, and legitimately overnight they'll be like, oh, I know how to make, I just figured out $10 million. And it's this crazy,
just
elaborate
like that right
thing.
there. Yep.
And they got it. But they'll usually bring it into like the 10% phase. They'll bring it to 10% fruition, and then they're like, yeah, I'm bored. Let's focus on this other thing.
That over there is greener, right over there.
Yeah, so we got to bring in the crew to actually work the plan
Yeah.
and bring it home for us, right? Now, I know you work on a lot of different projects, and currently right now, what is the name of the big thing you're working on, or the company that you're really putting the hours into right now? What are you doing?
Okay, well, as you know, I have multiple different businesses, but the one that I have the most focus on, and one that I am helping the entrepreneurs with, is called Citadel International.
Yeah, Citadel International.
Yep.
And what exactly does Citadel International do?
We synchronize resources on a global economy.
We synchronize resources on a global economy.
That's right. That's exactly what we do.
And in human terms, what does Citadel do?
Well, you know, I'm a naturally gifted nexus, and what that means is nexus is like the center point, and I'm connected with. I'm about 1 to 2 degrees of separation from some of the most gifted and talented people on earth.
Yeah.
So, you know, whenever you combine that sort of networking with all of the experience that I have, you combine that together with my partners, Dr. Troy Major and Renee Marble, we have a rather substantial sphere of influence that we can leverage on behalf of our, clients. And we're able to represent, promote, and market them better. And that, you know, that's what Citadel International does, as long as the client meets our list of requirements.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned requirements, because I want to talk about that after the break. I know that you do have requirements before you'll take on people, help people secure funding. So stick with us. We're going to be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're going to want to stay around. Thank you. Thank you. You caught me chewing some ice. We were talking with Chase Barfiel. Chase is a professional when it comes to helping people get secure funding for business. And, you know, I have so many stories of people coming to us for funding. It's mind-boggling. And I know a lot of venture capitalists and angel investors have certain things they do to kind of weed out the pile, to really get to the people that are serious business people. Do you have requirements of different things that you look for before you'll accept a client?
Well, yeah. I mean, all businesses have requirements for clients. Yeah. Most people don't go out and actually define what they are, but all businesses have requirements for clients, whether or not you believe you do or not.
Yeah. I look for 6-foot blondes.
Well,
no, my wife.
I'm not talking about spouses.
No,
but, you know,
sure.
In business, if you have a pool maintenance guy, his requirement is going to be that you got to have a pool. You know, if you're an automobile mechanic, your requirement is some kind of combustible engine version of transportation. Yeah. And even on this show, you have a certain list of requirements before somebody comes on the show.
Well, we did, but
I was going to say, you know, after accepting me on here, you need to re-examine those.
I'm reevaluating the whole.
You have to reevaluate the whole thing, you know. However, for Citadel International specifically, the requirements that we look at is that they have to utilize EB-5 in some form or fashion. They are commonly tied to real estate and or manufacturing. You know, they have some kind of special sauce.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that they have to have some kind of intellectual property, highly proficient team, you know, some kind of uniqueness or unfair advantage.
Okay.
You know, and they also have to have the resources to be able to
Yeah.
secure our company as well as any other talent that we need to bring in.
Yeah, we used to joke about that. You know, we would we would do these seminars and we would talk about this, and I know that we traveled together quite a bit, and you know, we would always joke about stapled papers because we would get these guys that would come up, we wouldn't even know who they were, and they would say, look, I'm a straight shooter, and they would slap down these papers and they would say, I need $7 million, or I need $120 million, or whatever, and we would be like, okay, and who are you again? And what they'd have is like 7 pieces of paper stapled.
Yeah.
No business plan, no, you know, executive summary. It was like, and so I'd look at the coffee spill from the can, and I would be like, listen, stapled papers is never going to get you $7 million or $20 million. But you're not looking for a specific field. You don't. They don't have to be green technology. They don't have to. If somebody's, let's say, good in their field, they're legit. They've done their research. They got a great idea. They're serious business people, and they're good at, you know, they're good in their field. It's something that we would definitely look at with Citadel.
Anywhere in the United States, we don't have a geographic restriction. It just, in order to be able to utilize what I refer to as the EB5 platform, they have to be within the United States. But no, we will not take on a pie in the sky type company.
Yeah.
And whenever I said tied to real estate, that doesn't mean that it's a real estate venture. If they have their own, you know, if they own their own building or plan on owning their own building. And that's just simply because some of the preferences that are utilized within the EB5 platform is they like real estate or manufacturing.
Now, you've mentioned that a couple times, and I presume you're talking about the USCIS EB5, and I'm familiar with that. But again, you're talking crazy. So for real basics, what is the EB5 program?
Okay. USCIS.
It's going to get interesting, by the way.
It's going to get interesting. The USCIS EB5 program, USCIS is United States Citizenship and Immigration Service. EB5 means nothing more elaborate than employment-based fifth preference. And to come back to human speak, as Dan keeps saying, in the 1990s, the Congress set up a program called EB5 through USCIS. Essentially what that is it utilizes international or foreign investment to be invested into U.S. businesses in order to create jobs, and the international investor actually gets a permanent green card in exchange. So essentially you're bringing in people with means that are going to help bolster the country, build business, and create more jobs.
Yeah, and I believe it was, wasn't it something like, we'll get into this a little bit, but it was like $1 million. You had to create X amount of jobs we'll talk about. But basically what we're saying is there's a way to get funding, in a nutshell, if we're willing to create jobs for people, you know, bringing in foreigners to be able to work here in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, the rules are fairly simple, but trying to operate within those rules can be complex.
All right, now talking about the EB5, elaborate a little bit more on exactly how to take advantage of this.
Okay, well, let me first cover some of the basic rules of EB5. And
actually, you might even start some of the basic rules of the necessities that people would have to start a business plan. You know, we talked about the stapled papers.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting because whenever someone comes to us, we go through an evaluation process. Right. And we have to evaluate, are they legit? You know, I remember one time whenever we were on a trip, you actually had someone come up to us and want to pitch on colonizing Mars.
Yeah, that's a true story. They're building a spaceship on Mars.
Colonizing Mars, and we're like, what's the ROI?
They actually got $7 million funding from other crazy people.
Return on investment was 150 years. Okay?
Yeah. When's our ROI? In 150 years, we'll pay you back the money.
Yeah, we'll pay you back the money.
And then she tried to press us, are you in or are you out?
Yeah,
are you in? Right now I said, 150-year payback? I'm out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Way out.
That's true.
Just like you. You're way out.
Yeah.
You know, so they have to have some kind of expertise within the area that they're in. They can't come with what I call pie in the sky. You know, some people call it blue sky. You know, where they want to try to fulfill their life's mission, and they have no thought about profit in it. So they have to have some kind of stable or substantial arrangement from the business from where they actually operate.
And particularly today, we're talking about being able to create jobs to bring people over here from other countries to have jobs. and using that leverage to be able to create funding for
That's
small
right.
business.
That is correct.
So if somebody's saying, I definitely, can create some jobs, and that's what I want to do, and so they'll give me $1 million if I can actually prove that I'm putting all of that money in the business, and I'm going to create 10 jobs for 2 years, which, in my opinion, for funding, that's a pretty easy feat to create 10 jobs for 2 years. Then it's a definite possibility they can receive funding.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Well, look, stick with us. We're going to be right back more with Chase Barfiel. We're going to learn how to get that funding, how to start our business. We'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. Thank you. Thanks for sticking with us. I'm here with Chase Barfield, and we've been discussing how to get funding for small business, and we've been discussing particularly the EB-5 program, which is actually being able to create jobs here in the U.S. and for people that are living in foreign countries, and to be able to leverage those jobs to be able to secure funding. Now, I know there might be a lot of people out there, Chase, that are saying, I'm needing funding, and I've been on that road for years. I've talked to everybody. I've meeting after meeting. How realistic is this EB-5 program? I mean, is it really helping people secure funding?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dan. And the answer is yes. It is helping many, many, many investors. They allot up to 10,000, or many, many businesses, excuse me. They allow up to 10,000 permanent green cards per year to be able to go into this. And there's, if you ever want to look it up, you can look up one. It's called JPEAK. It's raised $600 million through this. The state of Vermont actually uses it. There are counties, cities, and businesses that actually use this to spur economic growth and grow businesses. So yes,
and is there certain areas that have to qualify, or is it just, hey man, I'll create some jobs if I get some funding and I'm good at what I do and I'm legit?
There aren't any areas to qualify. You start getting into a lot of the more specific requirements whenever it gets into EB-5. I will tell you, if anyone out there that's listening that they say I only need 600,000 or something like that, they don't need the full $1 million. If you're in an area called a targeted employment area, which means it's an area with high unemployment, 150% of the nation's unemployment, the USCIS actually says you only have to invest 500,000 in that area. Yeah. So you can get an investor with as little as 500,000 if you're in that area.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, Chase, real quick. There's probably a lot of people out there that says, man, I'm looking for funding. This is a guy I need to know. Are you looking, first of all, for anyone on your team to join, anybody out there to join your little family of business?
Well,
you got openings?
Sure,
Can we apply?
Well, if there's anyone out there that actually has direct relations with investors, either internationally or domestically, you can go to our website. And same thing with anybody that may be looking for aligning with the EB-5 program. You can go to our website, which is www.citadel-international.com.
Yes.
Don't forget the dash in the middle. It's www.citadel-international.com.
Citadel-international.com.
And use the contact page, because if you dial the number, I'm going to promise everybody this, you will get voicemail, because we only take phone calls by appointment.
Okay, now I know you take phone calls by appointment, but what if somebody just wanted to pop on down to Naples and take you to lunch? Do you have anything? I mean, will you give somebody a listening ear?
Dan, I learned from you that I don't commonly turn down a good lunch.
Okay, so take Chase Barfiel to lunch. What do you prefer? Take him to lunch, and you might be able to get a meeting from him. Now, Chase, I wanted to make up my point of the day, and let me ask you a question. Before I do, I wanted to ask you if you had one piece of advice, one thing that you could give the audience of saying, whether it be regarding to securing capital or just being successful in their business as entrepreneurs, what's the one thing you feel like is key?
All right. In regards to entrepreneurs, the one thing that is key is actually in three parts. That's focus, and focus.
Yeah.
Because you alluded to this earlier about entrepreneurs having the grass is greener syndrome. Yeah. They tend to chase after different things, no pun intended, after various different things, and they do so without the utilization of leverage outside. They think they have to chase after it themselves.
That's right. And they have to know what their field of expertise is.
Yeah.
So, and to give you a good example of that, today we actually had lunch with a group of entrepreneurs that were looking for some partial funding, and a lot of times when you sit down with this, everybody has their expertise, and you have to know what that is. For instance, a lot of times if there's engineers involved or sometimes they don't speak human real well, so having them pitch the money or having them pitch something that's not related to product integrity, it's a mistake. And then you'll have the pitchmen out there that are sizzle, and they know how to sizzle it up, but asking them technical questions is a mistake. But the problem I see with a lot of teams is they don't really know their place, and you really want to focus on what you do really well, and then you have to surround yourself with other successful people and say, this is what I do well, and now I have to have a pitch guy that talks human. He's going to go out there and connect me to a bunch of people, and I have to have the doctor involved. And when part of your team's talking, you have to let them be the expert. You know what I mean? You might have designed the product, but when they're talking, and everybody has, and I've seen a lot of companies go down that way, down by the wayside, where there's no round table.
No.
There's always one guy trying to run the thing, and everybody else is a professional in their aspect of the team, and they can't get a handle on how to drive the company. And I think we saw a good example of that today, where everybody had their place. They recognized that there was a real unity there.
Yeah, there was.
It wasn't just stapled papers.
Right.
We saw a really good plan.
No dictator at the head of the table.
But you have to be focused. And we were talking earlier about Donald Trump earlier at lunch, and I did have the privilege to ask him what his focus was, or what was his main key to success. And he said, my ability to have tunnel vision is what he said. You remember that? And we kind of thought that was weird, because when you hear tunnel vision, that seems like a very negative thing. But he says, when I zoom in and I'm at work, 100% of my focus is at work. And he might build a year out of what he's going to do for a year, and then all of a sudden he'll pull out, look at a whole year, and then he'll zoom in on that one task. And when he leaves work, it's 100% about his family. It's about Milani, it's all these different things, but what he's doing, he's killing it. It's 100% in the moment. He doesn't bleed everything else, and everything else doesn't suffer.
Well, and he's got a fantastic team that makes up for the areas where he may be deficient.
Well, and Milani's not too bad herself. She's a sharp cookie. And one thing that I've had to really learn is how to focus on right now. As we've mentioned numerous times, entrepreneurs really suffer from being so creative that a lot of times they're chasing a lot of different things. They got a lot of balls in the air. And I know we've had a lot of talks about that. But there's a saying in business that if you chase two rabbits, you don't get either. And a lot of times we have all these interests, we have all these things going on, and every month we're moving all the things forward, but nothing's hitting pay dirt, And what I've learned, and I know you've learned this, is you have to jump off of all those things and focus on this one thing, drive it home, then the next thing, drive that one home. And instead of moving 10 things forward in a year's time, if we only get 6 things to the home run phase and 4 that didn't make it, that's okay. We have to learn how to vault sometimes and say, you know what, I'm going to pick that up next year. And so we really want to be able to focus in. And, I think a lot of the reason why people lack focus is because of fear. They're scared, and they're waiting to have all the how. You know what I mean? They're focused on things that they have expertise in, and with this big vision over here, they might not know exactly how they're going to do it. So they'll get involved with it, but they don't fully put their focus on that. And what I have to tell you about that is you're never going to have all your how. You can't wait to have all the how you're going to do it. Once you have a great vision and you know what you want to do, don't wait around to collect the how, because by the time you go out there and you gather all the how you're going to do it, the world has changed so much, marketing's changed so much, the how's not even applicable anymore, and you need a new how. So what you have to do is get that vision, know what you want, get out there, and get in the trenches, start moving forward. Believe me, the how will come, and the focus will be there. So we appreciate, that's our show tonight, and we appreciate Chase Barfiel for being here. Now, again, Chase, one more time, if people want to get a hold of you or take you to lunch, buy you a burrito, how do we do that?
You go to www.citadel-international.com.
Don't forget the dash.
Don't forget the dash.
Thanks, guys. That's our show. Remember to get involved in your local communities and be forgiving of others. Thank you very much.